Okiana's silence became your crown. They thought your silence meant weakness. They mistook your quiet for surrender. They mistook your stillness for fear. They mistook your patience for powerlessness. They whispered, "They're done." They laughed, "They've lost." They predicted your collapse like it was already written in stone. But what they didn't understand, what they could never understand, is that silence was never your grave. It was your throne room. And while they were busy celebrating your downfall, you were building a kingdom in the dark. Expectation versus reality. They expected you to scream. They expected tears, rage, public breakdowns. They expected emotional explosions they could point at and say, "See, we were right." They wanted a reaction. They wanted noise. They wanted proof that they still controlled your emotions. But you gave them nothing. No arguments, no desperate explanations, no begging, no revenge posts, no dramatic exits, just silence. And that silence confused them. Because when someone tries to provoke you, they are fishing for control. When someone tries to break you, they are waiting for confirmation. When someone underestimates you, they are betting on your collapse. But you didn't collapse. You didn't shatter. You absorbed the impact like stone, and in that quiet space where they thought you were drowning, you were learning how to breathe underwater. They thought you were shrinking, but you were compressing, like a diamond under pressure. Transformation, Phase 1, forged in the dark. Do you remember those nights? The ones where the world was asleep, but your mind wasn't. The silence felt heavy then, not powerful. Not royal, heavy. You questioned yourself. Maybe they're right. Maybe I am too quiet. Maybe I should fight back. But instead of reacting, you observed. Instead of exploding, you reflected. Instead of chasing validation, you chased understanding. And that is when everything changed. Because silence is not emptiness. Silence is a mirror. When the noise faded, you finally saw yourself clearly. Not the version shaped by their opinions. Not the version molded by their expectations, but the raw, unfiltered truth of who you are. And it was stronger than you imagined. You realized something powerful. You don't have to shout to be heard. You don't have to argue to be right. You don't have to perform to be valuable. Your silence began to transform from pain into discipline. Every insult they threw, fuel. Every betrayal, lesson. Every moment they underestimated you, blueprint. You stopped trying to convince them of your worth. You started building it, brick by brick, in the gym, in your craft, in your mindset, in your boundaries. While they were watching your reactions, you were mastering your responses. That's when silence stopped feeling like isolation. It started feeling like strategy. And slowly, subtly, power shifted. Conflict reaction, when they realized. At first, they didn't notice. They thought you were fading away. They thought your absence meant defeat. But then something happened. You stopped reacting and started radiating. Your presence became calm, unbothered, grounded, and that unsettled them because chaos feeds on reaction, and you were no longer feeding it. They tried again. Subtle comments, passive aggression, provocations dressed as jokes, but you didn't flinch, you didn't bite, you didn't chase, you watched. And that's when fear crept into their eyes. Because when someone can't control your emotions, they lose their power over you. Did they really think you would stay broken? Did they believe silence meant submission? They forgot something important. Storms are loud, but mountains are silent. And you were becoming a mountain, unshakable, unmovable, untouchable. The louder they got, the quieter you became. And the quieter you became, the stronger you felt. They began to sense it. That shift, that invisible elevation. You weren't trying to prove anything anymore, and that terrified them, because when you stop needing approval, you become dangerous. Transformation Phase 2. The crown forms. There comes a moment in every warrior's journey where they stop fighting the battlefield. and become it. That moment came for you. You stopped explaining yourself. You stopped defending your boundaries. You stopped seeking apologies that would never come. Instead, you elevated. Your silence turned into focus. Your focus turned into growth. Your growth turned into confidence. And your confidence, it didn't need noise. It didn't need validation. It didn't need applause. It walked into rooms quietly and still commanded attention. That's when silence became your crown. Not because you were passive, but because you were sovereign. You understood something they didn't. The loudest person in the room is rarely the most powerful. Real power is controlled, measured, intentional. Like a king who doesn't need to announce his authority. Like a queen who doesn't need to argue her worth. You became that energy. And suddenly, they felt small. Not because you attacked them, but because you outgrew them. Outgrew the drama. Outgrew the arguments. Outgrew the need to be understood by people committed to misunderstanding you. You began choosing peace over proving, and peace is a luxury only the strong can afford. They started watching you differently, whispering, speculating. Why aren't they reacting? Why do they look so calm? Why are they doing better? Because silence sharpened you. It stripped away insecurity. It forced you to confront your fears without distraction. It made you self-reliant, independent, disciplined. While they relied on noise, you relied on growth. While they chased attention, you chased mastery, and mastery doesn't shout, it shows. Mini climax, the shift. One day you realized something profound. You no longer felt the need to respond, not because you were suppressing emotion, but because you had transcended it. Their opinions didn't sting anymore. Their attempts didn't land. Their words felt like echoes in an empty hall. Power had shifted, not through revenge, not through confrontation, but through evolution. You didn't win by destroying them. You won by outgrowing them, and that is a victory they will never understand. Empowerment climax, the throne of stillness. Now look at yourself. Look at how far you've come. The same silence they mocked is now the reason you're untouchable. You move differently, you speak less. But when you do speak, it carries weight, because your words are no longer emotional reactions. They are deliberate decisions. You've learned that not every battle deserves your energy. Not every insult deserves your response. Not every opponent deserves your attention. And that restraint, that is royalty. They may still talk. They may still try. But you are operating on another level. You understand that silence is not emptiness. It is self-control. It is emotional intelligence. It is confidence so deep it doesn't need to advertise itself. You don't need them to clap for you. You don't need them to understand you. You don't need them to validate your journey, because your growth is your proof. Your peace is your revenge. Your discipline is your crown. And the most powerful part? You're not silent because you're afraid. You're silent because you're secure. Secure in who you are. Secure in your path. Secure in your future. And security is something they can never take from you again. Resolution. The kingdom within. Silence became your crown, not overnight, not without tears, not without nights of doubt and mornings of rebuilding, but it became yours. And now, when you walk into a room, you don't need to demand respect. You command it, through posture, through presence, through peace. You learned that the world will test you, they will provoke you, they will try to measure you by your reactions. But your true strength lies in your restraint, in your stillness, in your refusal to let chaos dictate your character. You are no longer the person who needs to prove anything. You are no longer the person who reacts out of wounded pride. You are no longer the person who seeks validation from those who can't see your value. You have evolved, and evolution is quiet. A seed doesn't scream while it grows underground. A sunrise doesn't argue with the night. A crown doesn't beg to be worn. It simply rests on the head of the one who earned it. And you earned this. Every silent tear, every swallowed response, Every moment you chose growth over ego. You built this throne in the dark. You carved it from discipline. You polished it with self-respect. And now you sit upon it, not above others, but above your old self. Remember this: silence is not weakness. It is wisdom. It is power under control. It is confidence that doesn't tremble when challenged. Let them be loud. Let them misunderstand. Let them underestimate. Because while they chase noise, you build legacy. While they seek reactions, you cultivate results. And when history is written, not in words, but in outcomes, it will not remember who shouted the loudest. It will remember who stood the tallest, quietly, unshaken, crowned. So the next time they try to provoke you, smile, say nothing, and let your silence remind them you are no longer fighting for the throne. You are sitting on it.